Hey guys, tonight we are wandering into the dustiest chaos the American frontier ever coughed up. The world of Wild West outlaws. And no, not the cool, slow-motion, Hollywood hair-blowing-in-the-wind type. I mean the real ones smelly, paranoid, and constantly sprinting from sheriffs, bounty hunters, their ex-gang members, and occasionally an angry cow. Before you settle in, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this. Seriously, I am not here to negotiate. If you really want bonus points, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and how many pillows you currently need to fall asleep. Now, dim those lights, switch on a fan for that sweet, ambient whooshing, get comfy. Maybe double check your bedroom window in case of imaginary bounty hunters. They take Venmo now, it is unfortunate. So have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to live as a Wild West outlaw? Did your boots always smell like expired sadness? How many times could you get betrayed before you decided that maybe friendship was a scam? Were sleeping arrangements a cozy cabin, or was it here's a cactus, do your best? Did bar fights break out over gambling, cheating, or simply someone breathing too loudly? Could you really live on beef jerky, rainwater, and terrible choices? Was dental care just hope? And what happens when you get shot in the leg and the nearest doctor is actually just a guy named Jim who owns a shovel? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1873. There's dust in your hair, a price on your head, and the word wanted printed next to your face at every post office that doesn't even deliver mail properly. Good luck. Now let's break your new life into 25 soothing, weirdly educational segments. You open your eyes beneath an uncooperative cottonwood tree. The bark is poking you in the back like it's personally offended you slept here, and honestly it might be. Morning sun pours in like an over-enthusiastic landlord, demanding rent you cannot pay, and somewhere in the distance a crow lets out a scream that can only be translated as, "Buddy, you're in trouble. Your lips are dry, your brain is foggy, and your first sensation is that your mouth tastes like a mixture of dusty beans and regret." Good morning, outlaw. You sit up slowly, which is less about comfort and more about trying to avoid accidentally getting shot by someone watching from the bushes, because that's your life now. Every sunrise is a fun new guessing game called Is This My Last Sunrise? It is relaxing in a horrifying way. You pat the ground for your hat, only to find it has rolled several feet downhill, probably trying to escape your life choices. Your hand brushes something paper-thin and crisp, a wanted poster. Your face is on it. The artist somehow made you look worse, which is honestly impressive. You examine the bounty, 500, enough to make strangers care deeply about your sudden disappearance. It also means every ranch hand, teenage overachiever, and guy named Slim now wants to turn you into cash. Congratulations, you're technically influencer level famous, just in the murder category. Let's talk about your morning routine. No toothpaste, no coffee, no shower unless you count splashing warm stream water on your face while praying it doesn't contain parasites named after demons. You rub dirt from your eyes and immediately replace it with fresh dirt, because that's just the West. Dirt is everywhere. It is your accessory, your scent profile, your identity now. Breakfast is a negotiation between what is edible and what won't kill you. You rummage through your saddlebag to find a once hopeful piece of jerky that now resembles a roofing shingle. You gnaw on it while mentally listing places on your body that currently hurt. Knees? Always. Back? Absolutely. Soul? Deeply. A gentle breeze hits your skin, and you realize you're freezing and sweating at the same time, the signature climate of the frontier. Nights are colder than your excess goodbye text, and the mornings are hot enough to flambe a potato. You glance at the horizon, endless amber plains dotted with prickly cactus giving off the vibe of "Don't try me." You check your revolver, 3 bullets left. Cute. You might as well throw harsh language. The metal is cold against your fingers, humming with the reminder that medical care out here is just a guy with whiskey and a knife saying, "Hold still." A squirrel darts out from a shrub, startling you so badly you almost shoot it. You lower your weapon, embarrassed. Welcome to the emotional roller coaster of bandit living. One moment you're ready for a deadly standoff, the next you're terrified by a rodent that weighs less than your boot. Speaking of boots, yours are falling apart. They've absorbed more miles than a college freshman's Toyota, yet offer less support. You consider taking them off, but the thought of exposing your feet to the terrain feels like volunteering for tetanus. You settle for tightening the laces and whispering a tiny prayer to whichever deity handles footwear. As the sun creeps higher, you remember why you were out here. Last night was complicated. A game of cards got heated. Someone thought you cheated. Technically you did, but only because hunger had begun whispering threats. Your gang scattered in the chaos or sold you out. Hard to say. Outlaws tend to betray each other at the same rate modern co-workers steal credit for ideas. You stand a brush off your pants, which is less cleaning and more relocating the dirt. Your horse, tied to a nearby branch, stares at you. Its expression says, "I made terrible decisions to end up with you." You pat its flank and whisper something soothing, mostly lies, and climb into the saddle. Now the day begins. You could try to find your gang. You could head to town, sneak into a saloon and blend in. Or you could keep riding, letting the horizon smell your fear. But either way you should move. Because being a wanted outlaw means one thing above all. When you wake up, someone somewhere is already looking for you. You nudge your horse forward, feeling the uneasy rhythm of hooves on dry earth. The prairie stretches out in every direction, an ocean of dust and possibility. Every rustle of grass could be a bounty hunter. Every shadow could be your end. But hey, at least the scenery is decent, right? As the day warms, you feel yourself settling into the strange peace of constant danger. Your breathing slows, your heart learns to hover just below panic, and you start to realize, out here, survival isn't just a skill, it's an ongoing argument between fear, hunger, and sheer stubbornness. You head west. The world hums with heat. The wanted poster in your pocket crinkles, and you keep riding because stopping is just another way to die. And that, my newly outlawed friend, is how you start your morning. It's time for breakfast. By breakfast, I mean gnawing on jerky so tough it could legally be considered building material. You hold that strip of leathery something between your fingers, contemplating whether you should eat it or try roofing a house with it. Either could work. The smell is vaguely beef adjacent, like someone whispered cow over a campfire and then left. You take a bite, and your jaw immediately files a workplace safety complaint. The sensation is somewhere between chewing on an old wallet and flossing with barbed wire. You wish you could say this is unusual, that breakfast today is just an unfortunate fluke, but you know deep down this is your life now. Breakfast is whatever didn't rot overnight and whatever couldn't outrun you. On special occasions there might be beans. On super special occasions those beans might not fight back. But most mornings it is jerky. Let us talk about jerky texture. It is stiff enough to make you wonder whether teeth were truly meant for this world. Each bite is a gamble, like, will this nourish me? Or will this crack a molar and force me to carve a false tooth from a branch? And if that happens, you are on your own, you are not seeing a dentist. The nearest one is 200 miles away, and he's really just a barber with pliers and optimistic energy. You sit on a sun-warmed rock and try to chew with dignity. but some foods simply cannot be eaten politely. As you gnaw, the desert wind kicks up dust that sticks to your fingers. Now your jerky has notes of sand, a gritty mouthfeel, as the food critics say. You pause. Do you brush off the dust and lose calories, or do you embrace the added minerals? Survival says, eat the sand. Your digestive system says, please stop. Nearby, your horse stares at you with pity. Even it wouldn't eat this jerky. Your horse is a creature that will lick salty rocks for fun, so that saying something, you consider offering it a piece. It declines by turning its entire body away as though ashamed to be associated with you. Suddenly a tumbleweed rolls by, taunting you with its moisture content roughly 0% but still possibly juicier than breakfast. You take another bite, and your jaw pops like a rusty hinge. You're convinced you've unlocked a new joint you weren't supposed to have. You try to soften the jerky with a sip of water, but the water tastes like hot tin can and disappointment. Speaking of water, hopefully you filled your canteen recently. Frontier hydration is less refreshing beverage and more lukewarm pond juice. You never know what you'll get. Algae, mud, or tiny organisms hoping to colonize your stomach. To make peace with this, imagine you're drinking kombucha with bonus protein. Pretend that helps. Modern comparison time. Imagine waking up, stumbling into your kitchen, opening your fridge, and finding exactly one food item, a piece of beef that was dried during the Civil War and seasoned with road dust. Instead of coffee, your drink of choice is reused bath water from a creek. If you want avocado toast, too bad. The closest thing to avocado is a cactus, and it will hurt your feelings if you try to eat it. Halfway through chewing, you begin to reflect. Was outlaw life really worth it? You could have been a boring accountant. You could have had oatmeal for breakfast. But no, you had to rob that stagecoach because the thrill called to you. Now the only thrill is wondering if your teeth will survive. As your jaw tires, you gaze out across the plains. The sky is annoyingly beautiful, blue enough to make you consider life's regrets. A couple of vultures circle lazily overhead, which feels rude. You are not dead yet, but they seem confident you will be soon. Their presence is basically nature's version of reading your wanted poster aloud. A distant gunshot echoes, totally unrelated to breakfast. Probably. You freeze mid-chew, dust motes suspended around you like tiny spectators waiting to see if you're next. That's the Wild West. Every meal comes with anxiety seasoning. Finally, you swallow. A sense of victory warms your chest. You survived breakfast. Your reward? Mild nourishment and a sore jaw. You stretch your face like a boxer warming up before a fight. Because now you're ready for the real challenges: escaping bounty hunters, desperately seeking water, and avoiding stares. Because your legs are still angry about yesterday. You wipe your hands on your pants, accomplishing absolutely nothing because your pants are already dirt, and stand up. The sun is climbing. Your canteen is lighter than your sense of self-worth, and your day is just beginning. Breakfast as a Wild West outlaw isn't glamorous. There are no pancakes, no bacon sizzling. Just you, some leather masquerading as food, and the desperate hope that lunch might be no, sorry. Lunch will also be jerky. And with that revelation, you saddle up. Your stomach growls in protest. You tell it to hush, there's no customer service out here. You kick your horse gently, and together you leave breakfast behind, though the memory will stay lodged in your teeth forever. Onward, outlaw. More suffering awaits. You spend every minute scanning horizons for bounty hunters, rival gangs, and that guy from last night's poker game who swore you cheated. Now, to be fair, you did cheat, but in your defense, everyone at that table smelled like onions and bad decisions, so really, you were just balancing cosmic energy. Still, That tiny detail means every minute of your morning now feels like a mix of cardio and spiritual dread. You weren't built for cardio. You ride slowly, eyes darting across the open plains, neck craning like an anxious meerkat with back problems. The West is big, aggressively big, and it offers exactly two types of hiding places: rocks and slightly bigger rocks. Every time you crest a hill, you half expect to see a sheriff posse waiting with that "we've been expecting you" energy. Instead, the land is empty, quiet, too quiet. Let us talk about quiet. Silence should be peaceful, right? Out here, silence sounds like a threat wrapped in a riddle. At home, quiet means your roommate is asleep. In the Wild West, quiet means someone is either stalking you or hasn't found you yet. Every chirp, every rustle, every whisper of wind becomes suspicious. Is it an animal, a bounty hunter, or just your brain melting? You shift in your saddle, every creak of leather feels like a megaphone announcing your location. Your horse flicks an ear, completely relaxed. Because horses do not care about your anxiety. It's just thinking about grass. Meanwhile, you're sweating through your shirt at the thought of some stranger yelling, "We got him!" You pause at a small ridge and peer through your fingers like a makeshift binocular. Nothing. Just tumbleweeds rolling with the confidence you wish you had. You imagine them whispering, "At least no one is hunting us." They'd be right. No one puts a price on a tumbleweeder's head. A bird flutters overhead, just doing bird things. To a normal person, it's nature. To you, it is obviously a scout for enemy forces. You squint. The bird squints back. You two are locked in an unspoken duel of suspicion. Eventually you blink first. The bird wins. Paranoia is your new roommate. It's clingy. It never leaves. It enjoys waking you up at 3 a.m. with thoughts like, what if your friends betrayed you? What if someone saw you sleeping? What if the next person you meet is hiding a shotgun under their jacket? What if the jerky was expired? That last question keeps you up the longest. To keep your sanity, you try to think through your threats logically. Sheriffs are ruthless, bounty hunters are creative, and rival gangs are petty. The gambler from last night is the worst, though because he didn't mind the cheating. He minded the fact that you beat him while cheating. There's a difference. And he looked like the kind of guy who collects grudges, novelty belt buckles, and human ears. You consider hiding. You try crouching behind a cluster of dry bushes. Unfortunately, the bushes are shorter than you are and offer about as much cover as a wet napkin. You look ridiculous. A prairie dog pops out of a nearby hole, judging you. You bow your head in shame. Modern comparison time. Paranoia back then is like today's feeling when you were 95. Sure, you paid your electric bill, but maybe you didn't tea, and now your fridge is judging you. Or when your boss says, "Can we talk later?" and suddenly you're writing your will. That feeling? Outlaws lived in it 24/7, except instead of an awkward meeting, you might get shot in the spleen. Your hand rests on your gun at all times, partly because you're prepared, and partly because you lost your emotional support blanket months ago. Every breeze sounds like footsteps. Every shadow looks like a man with a gun. Every time your horse sneezes, you think, this is it. By midday, the sun is baking your brain like a low-budget casserole. You consider surrendering. But then you remember surrender means jail, and jail food is like breakfast except somehow worse. So you keep moving. Sometimes you get bold. You stop your horse and shout to the horizon, "I'm not scared of you." Then a cactus shakes slightly and you immediately apologize. Look, emotional stability isn't part of the outlaw package. As evening creeps in, paranoia evolves. The shadows grow longer, and every rock becomes a potential crouching gunman. You start narrating your own fear, like a dramatic radio broadcast. Is that a coyote or a criminal? Every time it's a coyote, it still feels personal. Finally, night falls. You set up camp with the confidence of someone trying to assemble IKEA furniture without instructions. You carefully pick a spot hidden from roads, out of the moonlight, away from suspicious squirrels. You eat the last of your jerky and lie down on the ground, staring at the sky. The stars twinkle peacefully, unaware that you are spiraling. You wrap your coat around you and listen to the wind. Every crackle, every snap, every hoot of an owl is either nature or your doom. You tell yourself you'll sleep. You won tea. Because being a Wild West outlaw is just one long anxiety attack with horses, and the night is just beginning. Your boots have gone from leather footwear to compost starter. Every step feels like negotiating with a grumpy rattlesnake. Once upon a time, these boots were respectable, sturdy, shiny even. The kind of boots that made you feel like maybe you could be the main character in a movie about personal redemption and good hair. But months of dust, rain, sprinting from bounty hunters, accidentally stepping in cow-coloured surprises, and occasionally using them as the emergency pillows have turned them into whatever this is. You look down at them, cracked and peeling like they have been aging in the sun since Noah's Ark. Bits of leather have curled up at the toes, so your feet now resemble sad tortilla chips. If you listen closely, you can hear them sigh every time you take a step, like they are tired of your nonsense. Each boot has developed its own personality. The left one is pessimistic, it flops awkwardly and constantly tries to detach itself from your foot, like it is filing for separation. The right one is more of a toxic optimist. It believes it can go on forever, even though the soul is barely hanging on and is now the thickness of a tortilla. You shift your weight, and something squishes. Something inside the boot. You do not investigate. You're an outlaw, you've seen terrible things. Some mysteries are best left alone. You simply wiggle your toes and hope the squish is harmless and not, say, developing sentience. There's a hole where the right booter's toe should be. Your big toe peeks out, greeting the world with the sort of vulnerability no outlaw should ever display. You try to tuck it back in, the way a person might hide a mortgage bill under the bed. It pops right back out, proudly waving like it's running for sheriff. Let Essie's talk scent. The boots smell like leather, mildew, bad decisions, and a faint whisper of regret. If someone tried to bottle this as cologne, it would be called Eau de Plis d'Anti. You avoid campfire conversations because you worry others can smell your feet from 15 paces. In a world where bears, wolves, and armed men prowl the night, your boots are still the scariest thing within sniffing range. You attempt to tighten the laces and act more symbolic than practical. Half the eyelets have fallen out, so you're basically tying rope around an open wound. The knot looks like a toddler made it during a tantrum. You give the boots a stern talking to. Just hold it together, okay? They respond by squeaking in a tone that clearly means no promises. Then there's the inside. The lining. Used to be soft. Now it is a texture somewhere between cardboard and cactus. Every step feels like you're bargaining with your own skeleton. Blisters? You stopped counting those months ago. Your ankles look like they've been personally trained by a cheese grater. At this point, your feet are just raw determination and questionable padding. Modern comparison time. Imagine wearing sneakers with soles so thin they might as well be napkins. Then imagine filling them with sand, tiny rocks, and one angry beetle. Now walk 5 miles in the desert while being hunted. That's your shoe experience, except sneakers would be a luxury here. Sneakers are for winners. You are not winning. Sometimes you dream of new boots. Maybe ones with actual leather and not, holes. You picture them glowing in the sun like a gift from heaven, smelling faintly of hope. You imagine slipping your battered feet into them and crying tears of joy. But then you remember, boots cost money, and your money was stolen possibly by a raccoon, definitely by karma. You consider going barefoot. Immediately your surroundings laugh. Cactus thorns, scorpions, rocks sharper than your excess tone. Your feet wouldn't last an hour. You'd step on one sharp pebble, let out a scream and get spotted by bounty hunters. Your obituary would read, "Died as he lived unprepared." So you patch your boots the outlaw way with scraps of fabric, prayer, and a level of denial usually reserved for people who say, "I'll just have one more drink." You wrap a strip of hide around the worst tear. You chew the end of the strip to soften it. Yes, it's disgusting, but necessity beats hygiene. You weave it around the boot, yank it tight, and admire your handiwork. It looks awful, but better awful. The sun climbs higher, warming your shoulders. You shift in the saddle again. Your boots creak ominously, as if warning you that today might be the day they give up entirely. You pat them reassuringly, whispering, "Not today." Your horse snorts in disbelief. You keep riding. The ground beneath you is uneven. Every rock sending shocks up your spine and into your questionable footwear. You wonder how many miles your boots can survive. They wonder how many more terrible life choices you'll make. It's a toxic relationship, but you need each other. The day drags on, the land stretches endlessly, and your boots continue their tragic saga. They're not pretty, they're not comfortable, they're barely functional, but they were yours, and they've carried you this far through. Storms, fights, betrayals, and long nights under star-splattered skies. And as an outlaw, sometimes that's enough. The good news, there is a fire. The bad news, it doesn't make you smell any less like sweaty despair. You crouch beside the tiny campfire, watching the flames dance like they are mocking you, bright, energetic, clean. Meanwhile, you smell like an unventilated gym bag that has been left in the trunk of a hot stagecoach. The fire crackles helpfully, as if to say, "I can cook your food, but I refuse to participate in whatever hygiene problem you've got going on." Out here on the frontier, hygiene is more of an idea than a practice like dieting during the holidays. Bathing usually involves a freezing river, a nearby rattlesnake, and the eternal fear that while you're butt naked in knee-deep water, a bounty hunter will jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" So most outlaws solve this problem by never bathing. Ever. You're currently participating in this tradition. You stare at your hands by the firelight. They are no longer hands, they are geological formations. Layers of grime have built up into strata like a sedimentary timeline of bad decisions. Underneath the dirt is probably skin. You haven't seen it in months, but you have faith. You take a damp bandana and scrub your face. The result is that the bandana becomes filthy, and your face remains filthy but in different places. It's like rearranging furniture in a condemned house. Your paws try to scream, but immediately get clogged by dust. You splash a little warm water onto your neck. Big mistake. Now the dirt forms a paste, a kind of frontier exfoliant that promises clarity, youth, and tetanus. You rub harder and succeed in redistributing the mud across your cheeks. Congratulations, you've invented cowboy contouring, modern comparison time. Imagine trying to clean your entire body with a single wet wipe that has already been used, and also it smells faintly of beef. And when you're done, someone hands you more dirt and says, "Here, put this back on." That's your nightly facial routine. You sigh and turn your attention to your hair. It is crunchy. Not in the charming sea salt spray way, more like a rattlesnake nested in it. And now you're afraid to disturb the ecosystem. You pat it gently, trying to tame a few strands, but they retaliate by breaking off and drifting into the fire like tiny sacrifices. Then there's your clothes. They smell like smoke, sweat, horse, and anxiety. You try holding them near the fire to air them out, a phrase which here means bake the stink into the fibers permanently. You give your shirt a sniff and immediately regret your life choices. Your horse wanders over and sniffs you. The horse recoils. You've offended an animal that eagerly rolls in his own dirt for fun. You attempt not to take this personally, but deep down, it hurts. As the fire crackles, you attempt to foot cleanse the most dangerous hygiene ritual. You peel off a boot and instantly gag. A greenish cloud of vapor rises. Somewhere, a raccoon falls unconscious. You lean closer to inspect the damage, see something move, and decide the boot is going back on immediately. Your foot will remain a mystery. You sit there, warming your hands, desperately hoping the smoke will make you smell less like a haunted sock. The smoke only adds a new layer to the aroma. Now you smell like a haunted sock that also fought a barbecue. Truly, hygiene is a losing battle. Even washing your mouth offers no relief. You try swishing some lukewarm creek water, hoping it helps. It doesn't. Your teeth feel like they are wearing tiny sweaters woven from beef fibers. You spit in the dirt, which doesn't make the ground any dirtier. It may have improved it, actually. At this point, you begin to question your past self. Why didn't you become a farmer? A shopkeeper? Literally anything that didn't involve smelling like the inside of a dying pantry. But here you are, scrubbing your armpits with a scrap of cloth that's questioning its own purpose. Eventually you give up. Cleanliness is a myth. Hygiene is for people who aren't being actively hunted. You wrap your dusty coat around yourself, accepting that this is as good as it gets. The fire crackles encouragingly, like, "Nice try, champ." You lie down, smelling profoundly expressive. Your scent profile could be described as barnyard adjacent with smoky overtones. Somewhere, a wolf howls, perhaps mourning your lost dignity. As you drift towards sleep, you wonder if you'll ever feel clean again. The answer is no. But the stars twinkle. Your horse settles beside you, and the fire keeps your doubts, and the mosquitoes at least an arm's length away. You inhale deeply. Bad choice, but still, you were alive. And in the Wild West, that counts as fresh. Your gang is a revolving cast of violent introverts with loyalty thinner than diner coffee. They're the closest thing you have to co-workers if your co-workers also occasionally pointed guns at you and used betrayal as a love language. Every outlaw gang is basically a group project where no one does their part correctly, everyone smells like a busted lantern, and at least 2 people are probably thinking about killing you for your share of the loot. This morning, you look around your makeshift camp circle. 3 gang members remain, or at least, you think they are still members. The expiration dates on these relationships are unclear. Nobody signs a contract, people just kind of show up, sleep nearby, rob things together, and then wander off eventually, often stealing your horse on the way out. Closest to you is Buckshot Billy, real name unknown. He is a walking rash of poor decisions, and his hobbies include scowling, collecting scars, and telling long, unbelievable stories no one asked for. He claims he once survived a bar fight with a bear. You suspect the bear merely sneezed and Billy fainted. Then there is Clementine Dante-esque Jones. She's quiet, unsettlingly quiet. She never speaks unless it's absolutely necessary, and even then her voice is more suggestion than sound. She could be 3 feet behind you for hours and you'd never notice. Is she friend? Foe? A figment of your imagination? Nobody knows. She once stole a sheriff's horse, returned it, and then stole it again because she liked the chaos. Finally, you've got Eddie. Poor Eddie. He's enthusiastic, which is not a good trait in outlaw work. He's always smiling, always humming, always optimistic in a way that makes you deeply uncomfortable. This morning he's carving a new handle for his revolver, while cheerfully chatting with a cactus. You try not to think about it too hard. Let us talk gang dynamics. There is none. Everyone here has trust issues so severe they'd make a therapist retire. Nobody sleeps deeply, you take shifts, each of you clutching your guns like teddy bears full of bad choices, because at any moment someone might wake up and decide the reward money is worth more than companionship. Meals are awkward. You all sit in a circle, chewing jerky in silence. One person coughs, everyone glares. Someone shifts hands, move toward holsters. It is like dining with your in-laws, except everyone is armed and less polite. Modern comparison time. Imagine your friend group is made of people who never text back, constantly borrow your car without asking, and occasionally try to sell you to strangers. That's your gang, except instead of car keys, they borrow your bullets. Even small conversations feel like negotiations. Pass the beans. Why? Because I'm hungry. So you're weak? Nobody admits weakness here. The only two things outlaw gangs share are jerky and trauma. When planning a robbery, it is chaos. You gather around a rough map drawn in dirt. Someone suggests sneaking in. Someone else suggests blowing everything up. Eddie suggests a dance distraction. You stare at him. He stares back, hopeful. You decide silently that if he survives this life, it will be a miracle. In the end, plans are usually go somewhere valuable, point guns, hope no one dies. And honestly, step 3 is optional. But despite everything, the weirdness, the danger, the complete lack of emotional maturity, this group is all you've got. There is an odd comfort in knowing that, while everyone might betray you at any moment, they will at least judge you equally if you die in an embarrassing way. You remember the last member, Dusty Mac? He left 2 nights ago, or disappeared. Hard to say. One moment he was there, complaining about his boots. Next moment, gone. Maybe he found a different gang. Maybe someone found him. Maybe he became a tumbleweed. All equally likely. Gang life is an ongoing trust exercise, except the trust has been replaced with suspicion, and the exercise is not dying. There are no uniforms, no morale boosters, and definitely no team-building retreats, unless you count sprinting away from gunfire, which you do, frequently. Still, there are rare moments around the campfire under a wide western sky when you almost feel something like kinship. Billy tells a story that makes you forget how tired you are. Clementine sharpens your knife without asking. Eddie gives you an extra piece of jerky, though you're 90, sure it is not from a cow. These tiny gestures are what pass for love here. No hugs, no birthday cakes, just quiet offerings of survival and maybe a nod of respect after a long ride. You tell yourself that counts, because out here, nobody survives alone. Not for long. You need people broken, dusty, half-mad people at your side. They might betray you, they might save you, they might do both in the same afternoon, and somehow that's enough to keep riding with them. It's strategy time, which basically means everyone talks loudly about robbing something, no one listens, and someone falls asleep mid-sentence. You pull out a scrap of paper which in the Wild West doubles as a map, grocery list, and emotional support document, and try to make sense of the plan. Buckshot Billy insists the bank has a back door that is probably open. Eddie draws what he calls a distracto wheel, which looks suspiciously like a circle with a smiley face. Clementine stands in the corner, watching you all with the patient boredom of someone waiting for rain. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her presence is strategy enough. Let's be honest. Planning a heist here is less military precision and more group improv with firearms. You gather around a fire, squinting at the map while the night wind tries to steal it. Your horse munches quietly nearby, offering opinions via snorts and the occasional attempt to eat a boot. The saloon in the nearby town pulses with live piano, laughter, and a man loudly mispronouncing the word honor. That's your target energy. Loud and regrettable. You assign roles because assigning roles makes you feel like an actual organization, rather than a collection of poor life choices. Someone will be the lookout, someone will be the safecracker. Spoiler, none of you are good at this. Someone will be the driver, and someone will be the emotional support. You draw straws for emotional support. It goes to Eddie. He's thrilled. You auntie, the actual mechanics, that's fuzzy. You think there might be a vault, maybe a guard, possibly a dog, very possibly an irate barber with a shotgun and low tolerance for improvisation. You debate entrances, front door, back door, window, or the very risky option Eddie suggests through the chimney. You pause. The chimney is not connected to the bank. Eddie insists it is, based on a map he sketched while mostly asleep. You nod like this is entirely standard. There is always the logistics, horses, loot, escape routes. You mark a trail through scrubland, past a dry creek bed, and into a stand of trees that seems like a good place to argue about shares. You plan for contingencies. If the sheriff shows up, you run. If the sheriff doesn't show up, you still run because panic is efficient. If a rival gang shows up, you stage a dramatic confrontation where everyone points guns until someone forgets why they were angry. It is very theatrical, modern comparison time. Planning a heist back then is like building a startup in a barn with no Wi-Fi. You have big dreams, shaky infrastructure, and someone who thinks the business model involves trust. You'd have better odds crowdfunding your escape on a broken harmonica. You test the plan with a rehearsal. Clementine practices silently sneaking past a barrel. Billy practices dramatic shouting. Eddie practices pocketing someone's watch while singing show tunes. You try to practice cracking the safe by bashing it with a rock and whispering encouraging things. Results. The rock is unharmed, the safe is mildly offended, and your confidence dips slightly. Weapons are checked as a calming ritual. Each revolver feels heavy and anchor to reality. You weigh them in your hands as if measuring your fate. Someone polishes a bullet like it's a lucky charm. You slide rounds into chambers and swear to be careful, which here is a sincere vow and also a suggestion more than a rule. The night breathes on, and the plan grows teeth. It gets bolder. It gets stupider. You sketch escape maps that look like children has drawings of rivers, complete with smiling fish. You argue about splits 1/3, half, less than half. You keep that one, we'll split the rest later. Someone mentions taxes and then is shushed like such things are illegal to consider allowed. As dawn approaches, the plan consolidates into something surprisingly workable, which you attribute to sheer exhaustion, and the fact that exhaustion makes people agreeable. You strap on your hat, check your boots, again, and whisper a last-minute rule: no unnecessary heroics. Also, if anyone starts singing, they get left behind. Eddie looks touched and immediately hums. You consider the moral complexity of leaving your best friend for poor taste in music. You mount up while the sky lightens, the map tucked into your vest like a prayer. The town waits, blinking awake, unaware that a ragged, mostly unreliable crew is about to simulate a coordinated attempt at competence. You glance at your companion's Billy with his theatrical scowl, Clementine with her unreadable face, Eddie with an impossible grin, and for a ridiculous, terrifying second you feel like this might actually work. Then a rooster crows. You forget the password. Someone sneezes involuntarily and the illusion crumbles. The plan collapses gently like a house of cards in a windstorm. You look at each other, exchange the kind of glance that says, "We tried," and somehow that's comforting. Because outlaw life is less about flawless execution and more about the audacity to try, fail, and then try again, probably more loudly. You mount your horse, map crinkling. The day begins. The heist will be chaotic. It will be loud. It will be messy. And if it works, you'll probably lose half to someone who suddenly remembers a cousin. If it fails, you'll have another story to tell around a different campfire. Either way, you will survive the planning. The execution is negotiable. You stroll toward a dusty town with a name like Snake Gulch or Sadness Junction. This is never a good idea. You know it. Your horse knows it. The vultures circling overhead definitely know it. But survival means risk, and risk means walking straight into a place where strangers are more likely to shoot you than make eye contact. The town squats on the horizon like someone dumped a handful of splintery buildings and hoped they'd arrange themselves into civilization. They did not. The street is a single strip of hard-packed dirt that smells like sunburn and disappointment. A wooden sign at the edge of town leans at a questionable angle, barely legible, like it gave up halfway through being helpful. It probably once read, "Welcome," but now it just says ELP, which feels about right. What you need more than welcome is help. You and your horse step past the sign, hooves kicking up dust that immediately flies into your eyes. You blink furiously while trying to look casual, which is an impossible combination. The sun overhead is cruel, spotlighting your every move like you're about to give a disastrous audition. Town life makes you nervous because everything here is a trap. The general store is a trap, the saloon is a trap. The children playing stickball are definitely a trap. You keep your hat low and collar up, trying to pretend that makes you less recognizable. It doesn't he. This is the Wild West. No one forgets a face, especially not one printed on half the bulletin boards within 20 miles. As you walk down Main Street, townsfolk glance at you with that wary, eyebrow-hiked look that suggests either suspicion or intense constipation. They size you up. Dusty boots, road-worn coat, dead-eyed stare. To them, you scream trouble, even if you're just here for snacks and maybe a nap. The buildings here all seem built from the same three ingredients: wood, nails, and pure anxiety. Their boards creak as though regretting every choice that led them to becoming buildings. Porches sag like overworked parents. Doors hang crooked, swinging in the breeze as if attempting escape. You try to walk naturally, not too fast, not too slow, but every step feels either too confident or too guilty. A dog barks at you. You bark back out of stress. The dog pauses, confused. You keep walking, refusing to analyze that moment too deeply. Modern comparison time. Approaching a Wild West town is like walking into a crowded grocery store while looking for the restroom. Everyone can tell you are lost, uncomfortable, and possibly dangerous. You just hope no one notices how sweaty you are. Up ahead looms the saloon, the beating heart of every frontier town. Music seeps out of the swinging doors, off-key piano mixed with the sounds of drunken laughter and occasional screaming. You can feel your anxiety spike. The saloon is both the best and worst place you could go. Best because there's food, water, and maybe information. Worst because the man inside might recognize you and immediately shout, $500. If someone shoots that guy. You consider sneaking in through the side entrance, but that's how rattlesnakes and awkward reunions happen. You decide to push through the swinging doors like you own the place. Confidence is your only weapon here besides your actual weapon. The doors slap behind you, announcing your presence like disappointing percussion. Inside, the lighting is dim, thank the heavens. Fewer people can see your wanted poster face in detail. The air smells like spilled whiskey, stale sweat, and the questionable life choices of everyone within a 50-foot radius. You take a seat in the corner, trying to look relaxed, but you end up looking like someone who's about to commit a crime. The bartender eyes you with quiet calculation. He's seen 1,000 riders walk in looking exactly like you. road-weary, suspicious, maybe a bit murderous. He wipes a glass that looks dirtier after wiping. You order something generic that hopefully won't kill you. He pours it, and you drink it, deciding not to investigate its ingredients for your own mental health. Across the room, a poker game rages. Men with hats pulled low slam cards on the table, mutter curses and stare at each other like they were telepathically accusing someone of cheating. You briefly consider joining, but then you remember last time ended with someone attempting to set your shirt on fire. Politely you decline. You scan the room again. A few guys by the back wall look at you with narrowed eyes, bounty hunter eyes. You recognize them from somewhere. Maybe a poster, maybe a dream, maybe a nightmare. You do your best to shrink into your coat. You look like a coat wearing another coat. Your horse waits outside, tied to a post, occasionally eating the wood because its standards have dropped significantly since meeting you. A child points at your horse and whispers something to his mother. She drags him away, probably afraid you'll recruit him to a life of crime. You wouldn't. Kids ask too many questions. You decide to leave before the paranoia becomes full-blown existential unraveling. You toss a coin onto the bar, a painful gesture since money is not something you were rich in. Then you push back through the swinging doors into the blinding sun like a nervous vampire. You untie your horse and climb up. 3 sets of eyes watch you from the windows. None of them look friendly. You swallow hard, trying to remember whether you told your gang you were coming here. You probably didn't-y. They probably wouldn't have cared. As you ride out, you hear someone inside say, "Ain't he that the guy?" You do not stay to hear the end of that sentence, because in the Wild West, approaching town is just a polite phrase for running toward trouble holding scissors. And lucky you, trouble is always home. You find your own face tacked to a post. The artwork is just rude. It's a downright disrespectful, really. You lean in for a closer look, squinting because the sun is too bright and the portrait is too ugly. You don't remember having that many chins, or that much forehead, or that sinister eyebrow situation. Whoever drew this, wasn't he just documenting a criminal they were settling a personal vendetta? You tug at the corner of the poster. The nail holding it up is rusty and bent, like the artist's desire to capture your likeness. Your cartoonishly mean expression, paired with the exaggerated scowl, makes you look like a man who would steal his own horse and then complain about it. The shading is non-existent, the detail is offensive. If this were a dating profile picture, you wouldn't even swipe on yourself. You take a step back, arms crossed, contemplating the terrible self-esteem hit this just delivered. You're an outlaw, not a runway model, but you still had hopes. One cheekbone, a nostril proportionately aligned. Something. Instead, this portrait screams, here is a man who has never moisturized. The reward amount is bold, 500 dead or alive. Realistically, most folks prefer the dead option, because transporting a living outlaw is harder than convincing a toddler to nap. You can help noticing the prize is large enough to motivate your own friends to turn you in. That's not paranoia, that's the economy. You peel the poster off the post and examine it, as if a second viewing will make it less insulting. It doesn't-y. You briefly consider keeping it as a souvenir, or maybe as a motivational poster. Don't mess up again, or you'll look like this. Then again, the drawing is so cursed it might attract wolves if you keep it in your pack. Modern comparison time. Imagine going to the DMV, taking the worst photo of your life, eyes half closed, hair mildly haunted, then having that image plastered across every grocery store, post office, and Facebook group within 200 miles. That's your life. Except instead of expired driver's licenses, it posters encouraging strangers to shoot you on sight. You notice a few townsfolk glancing between you and the poster. You try to casually cover your face with your collar. It doesn't help. If anything, you look more suspicious like a raccoon trying to disguise itself at a dinner party. Kid chewing licorice points at the poster, then at you. You pretend not to notice. The kid continues pointing. You consider offering him $1 to stop, then remember you don't have $1. You scan the bottom of the poster for more information. Wanted for robbery, horse theft, bank interference, and general unpleasantness. General unpleasantness? You've done a lot of bad things, but unpleasantness feels harsh. Uncalled for. One time you helped a lady retrieve her hat from a tree. Why isn't that on the poster? You keep reading. Last seen wearing a dusty coat and riding a stubborn horse. That could be anyone. Which might be comforting, except you are wearing a dusty coat and riding a stubborn horse. Your outfit is essentially the outlaw uniform. As you pin the poster back to the post more out of habit than logic, you can help noticing your horse staring at it. You swear it looks vaguely disappointed. Its eyes say, "You're really letting this be your legacy?" Then it snorts dismissively. You briefly fantasize about getting a new portrait drawn, maybe even commissioning a professional. Something that says, "Stylishly dangerous." Ideally, you depose with a flattering hat angle and good lighting, but that costs money, and you're wanted because you took money. The cycle continues. A gust of wind slaps the poster against the post, making a sad flapping sound. You pat it like an old friend who lies about your jawline. Then you tuck your hat low, turn on your heel, and start walking, pretending not to care. But you do care. A little. Because when you're a Wild West outlaw, you expect the danger, the hunger, the terrible boots. What you don't expect is a deeply unflattering sketch haunting every building from here to the Mexican border. You sigh, mount your horse, and ride on face bruised, ego bruised harder. Out here, even your wanted poster is out to get you. You order a drink that tastes like flavored regret. The piano man looks like he's suffering. Saloons are the beating, wheezing, occasionally bleeding heart of every frontier town. You push through the swinging doors that seem designed only to announce your arrival and shame you for existing, and immediately inhale air that feels chewy. It is a mix of whiskey fumes, cigar smoke, bodily odors, and something suspiciously sweet that hints at poorly hidden crime. You wonder if breathing this counts as a felony. It probably does. The bartender eyes you with all the warmth of a dead cactus. He cleans a glass that was somehow cleaner before he touched it, then pours you a drink that looks like remorse and tastes worse. It burns its way down your throat like an overdue bill collector. You cough, swearing it contains at least 40 varnish. The bartender watches, unimpressed. This beverage, he thinks, separates the locals from the soft-bellied tourists. You're reminding him of a tourist. Across the room, the piano man plays a tune so painfully off-key, it feels like it's peeling layers off your soul. He looks exhausted, like someone who's been held hostage by a musical instrument. His fingers slam the keys as if he's trying to win a fistfight. You can tell if the melody is upbeat or deeply tragic. All you know is he looks like he regrets every life decision that brought him to this moment. A group of cowboys huddle around a table, slamming cards, slurring insults that may or may not be affectionate. They laugh too loudly, the kind of laughter that ends in broken furniture. One of them notices you and gives a tiny nod, the universal greeting of men who are too tired to care. You raise your glass. He raises his. You both pretend the drink tastes okay. Let's talk about etiquette. There isn't any. Saloon rules are less written code and more general suggestions that no one follows. Rule 1, don't make prolonged eye contact with anyone unless you want to fight, kiss, or die. It is a 3-door game, and the odds are not in your favor. Rule 2, don't step on anyone's toes, literally, Feet are territorial here. Rule 3. If someone spills their drink, look away. That moment belongs to them and their god. You sit at a rickety table that wobbles like a baby deer learning to walk. The seat is sticky. With what? Unknown. You accept this mystery because curiosity killed the outlaw. A serving girl drifts by, balancing a tray of beverages that probably contain more bacteria than alcohol. She is swift, alert, and deeply uninterested in your existence, a sign she's been doing this job long enough. In the corner, 2 men arm wrestle. Their arms bulge, veins pulsing like they're competing to explode first. One grunts, the other roars. A third man cheers while eating peanuts with a level of focus usually reserved for surgery. The peanuts look oddly clean. You make a mental note. Maybe peanuts are the safest thing in this building. A man with a mustache so large it probably has its own tax record sits at the bar, muttering into his glass. Every so often, he announces a fact no one asked for, like how many horses he's owned, or how many men he has buried. You don't ask follow-up questions, not here. Modern comparison time. A Wild West saloon is basically a dive bar where the floor is sticky, the patrons are loud and the drinks are sketchy, but instead of bouncers, you have armed men with questionable morals. Instead of karaoke night, you have a piano man desperately clinging to consciousness. And instead of an ambulance, you have a wheelbarrow. There's always someone passed out in the corner. Always. You glance over. This one is snoring loudly, clutching a bottle like it's the last friend he'll ever have. It probably is. Someone gently drapes a coat over him, which feels shockingly kind. You begin to relax until a chair suddenly flies across the room and splinters against the wall. Nobody reacts. This is normal. A tall, toothpick-chewing stranger approaches your table. He squints at you like he's trying to figure out whether you owe him money, or if he owes you money, or if he is just hungry. His hat is tilted, his eyes are stormy, and you are 60 sure he sleeps in a coffin. You nod politely. He nods back. Then he walks away. You exhale. For a brief moment, you think you might actually make it through this visit without incident. Then you hear someone yell about cheating at cards, someone else yell about stolen horses, and the piano man transitions into a melody so aggressive it sounds like he's trying to summon lightning. A fight breaks out. Tables flip, boots stomp, fists fly. You quietly pick up your drink, stand and move 3 inches to the left, hoping invisibility will protect you. It does niente. A bottle shatters near your feet. You sigh. Eddie would love this. Chaos is his love language. The bartender pulls a shotgun from beneath the counter, standard hospitality. He fires into the ceiling, splintering the rafters and showering everyone with old dust and new terror. Enough! He bellows. Everyone freezes. Someone hiccups. The fight pauses. The piano man gently resumes his suffering. You take that as your cue to leave. You toss a coin on the counter, tipping is optional, but breathing is not, and slip through the swinging doors. Outside, the air is fresh. Quiet. No piano. No brawling. No flavoured regret in a glass. You mount your horse, take a long breath, and tell yourself you will never come back here. You will. Because in the Wild West, chaos is the house special. Poker is your main food delivery service. You win a can of beans, a half-broken knife, and someone's questionable hat. This is how you eat now. No Instacart, no DoorDash. Just a plank table, some cracked playing cards, and a rotating cast of strangers who all look like they've been awake since the Civil War. It's not about becoming rich. It is about whether you'll have dinner or just the emotional satisfaction of losing everything again. Tonight's table is lit by a smoky lantern that flickers like it is also gambling with its life. The cards feel moist. Cards shouldn't feel moist. The edges curl like they've been chewed on, possibly by rodents, possibly by humans. You try not to think about it. The stakes are laughably humble. One man throws in a dented spoon. Another bets 3 cigarettes of suspicious origin. You have nothing but misplaced confidence, so you toss in a rusty nail you found on the floor. It's accepted. Currency is loose here. If someone bet a nicely shaped rock, you wouldn't blink. To your left sits a wiry man with a face like a half-cooked biscuit. His eyes dart nervously, perhaps because he suspects cheating. He'd be correct, there is always cheating. Across from him is a thick-shouldered miner with soot, ground so deeply into his beard it may actually be structural. He bets a can of beans, his entire net worth. Next to him is a stranger with one eyebrow. Just one. He never speaks, but occasionally hisses. You decide not to question it. The dealer, an exhausted woman with a cigarette dangling dangerously low, flicks the cards your way. They land unevenly, like newborn animals trying to stand. You glance at your hand. It is terrible. So terrible it should come with a warning label. A 2, a 6, a card that might once have been a queen, but now looks more like a smudged potato. You keep a straight face because bluffing is your only real talent. The others eye you with the suspicion of men who've lost many teeth and many fortunes. You raise the pot, casually tossing in an unidentifiable metal object you insist is valuable. It might be a button, might be a coin, might be part of a horse. No one asks. One eyebrow raises. He throws in a pair of socks. They look crunchy. This is war. You lean back, pretending confidence. Inside, you're screaming. Not aloud, that would draw attention. Just a quiet, internal panic that matches the general ambience of outlaw life. The round continues. More betting, more rusted objects. Someone throws in a single bullet, always a bold statement. Modern comparison time. This is like sitting down at a poker table in a modern dive bar where the stakes are leftover fries, expired gift cards, and an IOU scribbled on a napkin. Everyone is confident. No one has reason to be. The miner calls. He stares directly into your eyes as if trying to peer into your soul. Joke's on him, you haven't had access to your soul since the stagecoach robbery last spring. You smirk. He frowns, unsure. Everyone watches as cards are flipped. 2 men fold. The miner reveals a pair of 8s decent. One eyebrow reveals a straight. You reveal your garbage hand with the confidence of a man revealing royalty. They stare. Silently, you slide your half-broken ace from your boot. It's a bold move, the outlaw version of pulling a rabbit from a hat. Technically cheating. Actually cheating! One eyebrow hisses. The minor's beard bristles. The dealer shrugs. You win. The table groans in disappointment. The miner pushes a dusty can of beans toward you like a man surrendering his final dream. The wiry fellow gives you his half-broken knife. It has personality. Maybe tetanus. One eyebrow hands over his hat. It is damp. You do not ask why. You gather your winnings like an entrepreneur who's just been funded by very questionable investors. You tip your hat, not the damp one, and leave before someone challenges your methods. The room murmurs. You hear your name hissed. You pretend not to. Outside, you inspect your loot. The beans are dented but intact. The knife is sharp enough to be dangerous, but probably not to your enemies. The hat smells like someone hid cheese in it. For a while, you place the hat on your horse. The horse shakes its head violently, offended. You apologize and strap the hat to your saddle instead. The knife goes into your boot, which is now 3 safer and 40 more likely to cause self-injury. The beans go into your pack, where they will become tomorrow's breakfast, lunch, and probably dinner. Your stomach growls impatiently. You whisper, "Soon," and your stomach replies with a skeptical rumble. You walk away from town, back toward camp, replaying the game in your mind. Sure, cheating wasn't noble, but nobility never filled a belly, and besides, you only took things everybody was willing to lose. A dented can, a semi-weapon, a hat that could be used as evidence in 3 different crimes. As you return to your tiny fire, you crack open the beans. The sound is triumphant, the musical pop of outlaw victory. You heat them over the flames. They taste like salt, smoke, and moral ambiguity. And honestly, that's a 5-star meal out here. Someone bumps your elbow. You apologize. He punches you anyway. That's the rule. You don't make the rules. You just suffer under them. The moment knuckle meets jaw, your brain starts narrating your life like a bedtime story gone horribly wrong. 1 second, you are sipping your questionable drink, trying to look inconspicuous, and the next, you're in a full contact demonstration of why Wild West saloons should probably require helmets. The punch sends you backward into a chair that was doing its best to hold itself together. It fails. You and the chair become modern art as you crash to the floor. The piano man doesn't even pause. He simply switches to a minor key, as if musically acknowledging that violence is happening again. This is business as usual. You scramble to your feet, spitting out what you hope is tooth, and not wooden, splinter. The man who punched you, ironically named Gentle Tom, is already winding up for round 2. His fists are like hammers. His face looks like it was carved from lumber by someone who'd never seen a human. You raise your hands defensively. He swings. You lean. It's clumsy, like 2 penguins trying to dance, but it works. His fist slices air and collides instead with the unfortunate stomach of a man behind you. That man immediately hurls his drink into the nearest face, and suddenly the whole room ignites. This is how bar fights work. They are spontaneous, contagious. No one ever truly knows why they start, but everyone feels obligated to participate. It's like jury duty, but louder and with more bruising. The bartender sighs and ducks. He's seen this 1,000 times and would rather polish glasses than intervene. A bar quiets him more than violence ever will. He keeps wiping the same dirty glass, mumbling to no one. Knew this would happen. I knew it. The room is suddenly a chaos blender. One man sails over a table, slamming into the floor with a thud that rattles the bottles. Another attempts to throw a punch, but forgets. There is a pillar behind him. His knuckles bounce off wood. He howls, reconsidering his life choices. A woman in a crimson dress stands on the staircase, calmly watching while eating peanuts. She seems deeply entertained, as if violence is her daily soap opera. You make brief eye contact. She gives you a thumbs up. You're flattered and terrified. You dive behind an overturned table, not for strategy, just to catch your breath. You peek out, trying to determine whether to run, fight, or pretend to die. None of these feel particularly dignified. You choose chaos. You grab a bottle and smash it against a chair. The bottle breaks, but only because the chair is softer than the glass. So now you're holding a jagged bottleneck. You feel dangerous, but mostly confused. Modern comparison time. This feels exactly like being at a family holiday dinner, right when politics come up. Suddenly Uncle Frank swings at Cousin Billy with a drumstick, Grandma S shielding her jello salad like it's precious art. You duck behind the couch, everyone is yelling. That is this saloon, only with more weaponry and fewer casseroles. You spot Gentle Tom again. He is punching the air, probably unsure where you went. You decide distraction is your best tool, so you shout, "Free whiskey outside!" He freezes, everyone freezes, and then a handful of men scramble for the door. Congratulations, UV weaponized hope. Tom sees through your trick a second too late. You dart to the bar, vault over it, and land in a pile of sawdust and empty bottles. The bartender looks down at you. "You gonna pay for any of this?" he asks. You cough, and decide now is not the time for financial honesty. Above you, a chair sails overhead with the grace of a malfunctioning pigeon. It crashes on the bar where your head just was. You vow to never sit under ceiling beams again. The heat of bodies, the smell of sweat and spilled liquor, the roaring of voices, it's oddly energizing. Something primal wakes up within you. You grab a rag, wrap it around your fist like you've seen professional fighters do, and leap over the bar. You land awkwardly, nearly spraining your ankle, but it looks cool enough in your imagination. You square up to Tom. His fists are boulders. Yours are grapes. You throw a punch anyway. It connects with his shoulder, not exactly the target, but you'll take what you can get. He stares at you, unimpressed. Then his right hook swings toward your face with the inevitability of taxes. Before the punch lands, Clementine materializes like smoke. She grabs Tom's wrist, twists, and drops him to the ground with quiet efficiency. You blink. She nods. Then she melts back into the chaos. You briefly consider proposing marriage. Just when you think things can escalate, a booming gunshot splits the air. Everyone freezes. The bartender stands on the counter, shotgun in hand, expression calm but eyes very done. He fires once into the ceiling just to make a point. Dust rains from above. Silence falls. Bar is closed, he says. No one argues. There is something about having a shotgun pointed vaguely at everyone that inspires respect. The crowd disperses, some limping, some laughing, some reconsidering their entire existence. Tom lies on the floor unconscious, dreaming of less humiliating futures. You dust yourself off, retrieve your hat from somewhere near the piano, and hobble outside into the fresh night air. Your jaw throbs, your knuckles sting, and your dignity is somewhere inside getting stepped on. But hey, at least you survived. For now. A stray bullet grazes your shoulder. It hurts a lot. You always thought getting shot would feel cinematic, dramatic music. Slow motion. Maybe you whispering something cool like, "Tell my horse he's adopted." Instead, it feels like someone shoved a branding iron under your skin while simultaneously ripping duct tape off your soul. You don't get a heroic moment. You get pain, confusion, and the immediate awareness that your shirt is now extra ventilated. It happens so fast you don't even know who fired the gun. Could have been Gentle Tom waking up. Could have been the bartender expressing his feelings. Could have been your own gang conducting what they call friendly reminders. No one here has good aim. People in the Wild West treat bullets like tweets. Fire first, think later. You stagger, clutching your shoulder, suddenly convinced that this is it, the end of your brief, mediocre outlaw career. You picture your wanted poster updated to say, "Died doing absolutely nothing important." The reward money stays the same though, because nobody respects accuracy. You hit the dirt outside the saloon. Dust coughs around you in a gritty little cloud, like even the ground is sighing at your choices. You lie there groaning, holding your shoulder like it's a prized possession. Pain radiates down your arm, and you try to look brave, but you mostly look like a guy who sneezed wrong. Clementine crouches beside you. She pokes the wound with a stick, probably medical. You yelp. She nods like your scream confirms her diagnosis. Yep, you were alive. Then she disappears into the shadows, leaving you with a stick and your feelings. Buckshot Billy arrives next. He gives your wound a cursory glance, shrugs, and tells you about the time he got shot in the eye and walked 30 miles wearing only socks. You don't care, you're busy bleeding. Eddie shows up holding a lukewarm drink and asks if you want a sip. You decline, he drinks it instead. Let us talk medical care. There is none. You have 3 options. Whiskey crying about it. Whiskey while crying about it. You choose option 3. Eddie pours liquor over the wound, which burns so badly you momentarily leave your body. You float up, see your life from above, and think, wow, I make terrible decisions. Then gravity calls you back, because even your afterlife doesn't want you yet. Billy tells you it's just a graze that you are lucky. If this is what lucky feels like, you'd hate to experience unlucky. The bleeding slows, the throbbing remains. You tie a rag around your shoulder, which basically means you are now fashionably injured. It is the latest style Frontier Casual Bullet Edition. Modern comparison time, getting grazed by a bullet in the Wild West is like lightly stubbing your toe on the corner of a coffee table. If the coffee table was angry metal and travelling 900 miles per hour. Everyone expects you to walk it off. There is no urgent care, no insurance, no telehealth. Your best hope is that someone nearby owns both a clean rag and the ability to suppress vomit. You test your arm. It moves. Badly, but it moves. That good news. Billy insists you drink more whiskey for the pain. You think he just wants an excuse to drink. Eddie offers to carry you back to camp. You decline because pride is stronger than reason. You mount your horse instead, using only your good arm, looking like a baby giraffe learning to sit on a bar stool. The journey back is slow. Every hoof step jolts your body and makes your wound sing the song of its people, a high-pitched whine accompanied by occasional swear words. The night air feels cold against your skin, and you wonder how many more times you'll have to patch yourself up before you just run out of patches. Back at camp, you collapse near the fire. Your gang acts unimpressed. They've all been shot at least twice. Billy claims he was once shot 7 times in a single day. You don't believe him, but you lack the strength to argue. They toss you a filthy blanket, which somehow makes you feel both comforted and insulted. The fire crackles. You stare into the flames, replaying the moment you got hit. You tell yourself this was just bad luck, but deep down you know. In the Wild West, getting shot isn't an if it is a when. And congratulations, you have checked that box. You drift into an uneasy sleep, shoulder pulsing, feeling equal parts wounded warrior and complete idiot. Because nothing says I'm a real outlaw like getting shot for no good reason. A friend pours whiskey on your wound. Another friend drinks your whiskey. This is the Wild West healthcare system. 1 part alcohol, 3 parts denial, and absolutely 0 paperwork. There are no doctors, no antiseptic wipes, no nurses asking about your pain on a scale of 1 to 10. Pain is assumed. The scale starts at hurts a lot and ends at screaming into a cactus. You sit on a rock that is aggressively uncomfortable. Your shoulder pulses like a tiny drummer lives inside it, frantically auditioning for a band. Buckshot Billy stands over you, pouring whiskey with the same precision he uses to make terrible decisions, which is to say, none. The amber liquid hits the wound, and your entire body clenches like you just licked lightning. You howl. Not a dignified howl, more of a someone stepped on my soul cry. Billy nods approvingly. That means it's working, he says. Then Eddie, with perfect timing, grabs the bottle and takes a massive swig. For morale, he claims. Your morale plummets. Whiskey is the official medical toolkit of the frontier. Need anesthesia? Whiskey. Need disinfectant? Whiskey. Need to forget the bad decisions you made last night? Whiskey. This is the all-in-one product that really should have its own marketing team. Clementine returns with a handful of herbs she swears will help. You don't ask where she got them, probably from under a rock guarded by snakes. She chews them, then spits the green mush directly onto your wound. You gag louder than when Billy poured the whiskey. The mush smells like skunk sadness. Clementine pats your shoulder. It's healing, she says, lying. You nod because disagreeing with Clementine feels like flirting with death. Someone hands you a rag to bite on. Its texture is somewhere between burlap sack and overused mop. You clamp down as Billy presses the herbs deeper. You scream through the cloth. He gives you a thumbs up because men here interpret screaming as positive feedback. Let us be clear. Nothing about this treatment is based in science. This is frontier medicine, a philosophy rooted in two beliefs. If it hurts, it is probably helping. If it kills you, you probably weren't meant to live anyway. Modern comparison time. Imagine you go to the ER with a bullet graze. Instead of doctors, you get a group of people who barely graduated from being alive, and their treatment plan involves whiskey, plants they found near a puddle, and a lot of yelling. Someone eats half your medicine because they are bored, then they tell you to walk it off. That's your reality. Billy finishes his aggressive herb stuffing and declares you fixed. Your wound is wrapped with a dirty bandana, which feels like putting a hat on a house fire, but you nod anyway. Everyone looks proud of themselves, like they just performed a successful surgery instead of light assault. You stand slowly and immediately regret it. Your shoulder burns like you've been branded by a careless rancher. Eddie hands you a piece of jerky. For strength, he says, it helps not at all. Walking back to camp is an adventure. Each step rattles your bones, sending shockwaves through your body. You consider lying down and accepting your fate, but then you remember, lying down is how people get found by wolves. Wolves love dramatic people. You slump near the fire and try to rest. Your friends sit around you, telling stories of all the times they were shot worse than this, which is their way of comforting you. Billy claims he once removed his own appendix with a fork. Clementine says nothing. Eddie says he got a paper cut once and fainted. You relate deeply. Eventually, the ragged bandage stops leaking. Your shoulder still throbs, but slightly less violently. That counts as improvement. You sip the remaining whiskey the tiny bit Eddie left you and let the warmth dull the ache. Stars glitter above you, cold and distant. The desert night whispers against your ear, reminding you that life here is fragile. A bullet, a bad fall, an infection, any of it could end you. But tonight, you survived frontier medicine. And honestly, that's more impressive than robbing a bank. Because in the Wild West, every wound is a gamble and you just beat the odds. You curl up in the cold dirt and pretend a cactus is a pillow. Owls hoot ominously. There is no bed. There is barely ground. There's only a ruthless stretch of desert that feels like nature as doormat, rough, prickly, and just waiting for someone unfortunate to lie on it. Your back molds to the earth, like you're auditioning to become sediment. A cactus squats nearby, its needles glinting in the moonlight like tiny swords. You do not trust it. You shouldn't. Earlier it stabbed your elbow when you tried to lie down, and now you are both locked in a silent feud. The night is cold, the kind of cold that tiptoes into your bones and rents space there. You pull your coat tighter, which helps in the same way that a napkin helps during a hurricane. The stars above are absurdly bright, like they're mocking you with their cosmic beauty while you contemplate frostbite. Around you, the wilderness sings its lullaby, the rustle of dry brush, the chirping of insects, and the occasional low growl from something you pray is far away. Your horse shifts, snorts, and then loudly sighs a judgmental sound that says, "You did this to us." You whisper an apology. The horse ignores you. Your gang is scattered around the campfire, each wrapped in their own brand of misery. Buckshot Billy is asleep immediately, somehow snoring and whittling a stick at the same time. The man is a chaos ecosystem. Clementine leans against a boulder, arms folded, eyes open. You don't think she sleeps. You think she powers down for 45 minutes and then reactivates like a weaponized clock. Eddie hums a lullaby to his gun. You decide not to ask. Let us talk comfort. There isn't any. Your mattress is a thin hell layer of dust, pebbles, and cactus needles that migrated over when the wind realized you were vulnerable. Every time you shift, something sharp jabs you, maybe a rock, maybe a bug, maybe your own regrets. You lift your head and find an insect crawling very confidently across your chest. Frontier bugs do not fear you. They have seen things. You flick it away and listen to it angrily skitter into the distance, probably plotting revenge. Modern comparison time. This is like camping if camping had no tent, no sleeping bag, no snacks, no friends who shower, and every raccoon carried a knife. The tiny campfire flickers, trying its best. It crackles warmly, just enough to remind you that one day heat may once again return to your limbs. You hold your hands out to it, hoping for warmth, but receiving mostly smoke. Your eyes water. You blink dramatically, not out of emotion, but because you practically tear-gassed yourself. Time passes slowly. Minutes feel like years. You swear the moon is stuck. The desert night is long, quiet in that unsettling something is watching way. You lean your head back on the cactus again, not because you forgot it was a cactus, but because you're too tired to care. It pricks your scalp. You accept this. Pain is simply a bedtime story now. Owls hoot from somewhere above, delivering messages of doom in bird language. One swoops low and stares at you with eyes that say, "You will not last till morning." It hoots again, probably laughing. You glare. The owl remains unbothered. Eventually you drift, not into sleep exactly, but into a half-dreaming fog where reality and imagination blend into one long apology note to your spine. In this daze, you imagine soft pillows, warm blankets, a mattress not made of nature's leftovers. You picture a feather bed. You picture socks without holes. Then a beetle crawls inside your pant leg, and you return abruptly to reality. You sit up and shake your entire lower body like a malfunctioning marionette until the beetle ejects like a disgruntled tenant. You collapse again, panting, emotionally damaged. Billy rolls over, mumbling something about gold. Eddie starts sleep-talking about pancakes. Clementine remains perfectly still, possibly awake, possibly hunting dreams. You try to sleep in short bursts, tiny naps between discomfort spikes. At one point, you dream you're sleeping in a real bed. Then you wake up because a scorpion just crawled over your shoe. You flick it away. It flicks you away. Spiritually. You watch the horizon for any sign of dawn, but the night stretches on endlessly, the way awkward conversations do. You wrap your coat tighter and tuck your face inside it like a sad turtle. Your breath warms your hands, barely. In the distance, coyotes yip their voices rising and falling in eerie harmony. You interpret it as, "Hope you taste like chicken." You try to look unappetizing. Eventually the sky starts to lighten barely, like someone scrubbing a charcoal painting with a damp cloth. The first stars blink out. Your bones ache. Your face is dirty. You can no longer feel your left foot. Dawn arrives. You survive the night, but your back has filed a formal complaint with your soul. You stand slowly, brushing off dirt, cactus needles, and emotional baggage. Congratulations, you slept in the wilderness, sort of. Your horse is your roommate, therapist, and Uber driver. It hates you. To be fair, you haven't given it many reasons not to. It's hauled you across deserts, through gunfights, away from bad decisions and into even worse ones. It has watched you gamble away food money, sleep in cactus patches, and get shot for no apparent reason. If it could write Yelp reviews, you'd be banned from the platform. This morning, you approach your horse with the same energy you use to approach a disappointed landlord. You whisper something soothing, hoping kindness will magically fix your relationship. The horse responds by blowing hot air in your face, a strong whiff of hay, dust, and resentment. Its name is technically Duststorm, but you mostly call it Please Don to Kick Me. Duststorm is a sturdy, skeptical animal with a look in its eyes that says, "I've seen too much." You rest your hand on its neck. It immediately decides you owe it money. The Wild West may be full of danger, but horse care is the most complicated part of your job. It's like maintaining a very large bicycle that has opinions and teeth. You pull out your brush a few bristles short of effective and begin grooming. Duststorm tolerates this for roughly 3 seconds before swinging its head dramatically, as if to say, "I could do this better myself." It probably could. You talk as you brush, because communication is important in relationships. "You're doing great. We are both doing great. Nobody died last night." That's progress. The horse flicks an ear in disinterest. You check the hooves next. This requires bending down in a posture that leaves your head alarmingly close to the business end of 1,000 pounds of attitude. You carefully lift one hoof, which weighs approximately the same as your gilt, and inspect it. There is a rock wedged inside. You pry it loose. Duststorm sighs like you're inconveniencing it. Modern comparison time. Taking care of a Wild West horse is basically like caring for a car that can experience feelings, develop grudges, and occasionally throw you into traffic because you didn't give it a good enough snack. Speaking of snacks, you pull out what passes for horse breakfast, some dry grass, a chunk of questionable carrot, and a prayer. Duststorm eyes the offering, takes the carrot, and spits out the grass. It will eat shirts, rope, dice, and sometimes your hair, but apparently grass is beneath it today. You refill the canteen from a nearby trickle of water that looks like the desert cried a little. Duststorm slurps theatrically, managing to splash more water on you than in its mouth. You're now damp. The horse is refreshed. Balance has been restored. Next comes saddling, a process guaranteed to turn you into origami. You heave the saddle onto Duststorm's back. It somehow weighs more than a grown man and less than your emotional baggage. You tighten the cinch. The horse holds its breath like a drama queen, so the strap loosens later and dumps you onto the ground. You know this trick. You tighten it again. Duststorm exhales with a snort that says, "Rude." You check the bit and bridle. Duststorm takes the bit with the enthusiasm of a child taking medicine, lots of teeth, lots of protest, zero cooperation. Eventually it submits, glaring at you with quiet fury. You pat its nose. It bites your sleeve. Progress. Let's talk bonding exercises. You try talking to Duststorm about your feelings. "I feel like we've been distant lately. I'm trying my best. Can you meet me halfway?" The horse farts. You try brushing its mane lovingly. Duststorm whips its tail into your face. You attempt to share your jerky. Duststorm refuses because it only eats jerky when it's not supposed to. This is the relationship. This is love. In truth, the two of you rely on each other more than either of you will admit. Duststorm knows your weight, your scent, your flaws. It knows how to dodge bullets better than you. It's saved your life at least twice, once by outrunning bandits, and once by refusing to stop for Edia's terrible singing. And you? You can name exactly 3 things you've done for the horse. Removed that rock from its hoof, occasionally shared your water, complained at it constantly, which counts as companionship. Sometimes, during long quiet rides, Duststorm glances back at you. You think maybe it respects you. Then it sneezes on your face, erasing that thought instantly. Because in the Wild West, your horse isn't just transportation, it's your reluctant partner in crime. It listens to your secrets, carries your regrets, and silently judges every life choice you make. By the end of your morning routine, you're sweaty, bruised, and slightly humiliated. Duststorm looks fantastic. You swing into the saddle. The horse shifts its weight like it's considering bucking you off not for safety but for fun. You whisper, "Not today." Duststorm sighs and walks, not because it loves you, but because it pities you. And honestly, that's enough. You hear hoofbeats, bounty hunters again, 'cause why not? It is never the sound of something pleasant, not the jingle of an ice cream cart, not a travelling spar wagon, not even a friendly neighbour inviting you to brunch. No, in the Wild West, hoofbeats mean danger, pursuit, and your heart dropping into your worn-out boots like a sack of hot potatoes. Your head snaps up. Duststorm freezes mid-chew, ears pointed like twin satellite dishes. Even your horse knows when the universe is about to do you dirty. You both listen for maybe 5 riders, fast, too fast, far away but closing. You mutter, "Not again," because this happens more often than laundry. The desert suddenly feels smaller. The horizon, wide and open a second ago, now looks like one suggestion for where you might be buried. You grab the reins with your good arm, the one that hasn't recently been stabbed by a bullet, and swing into the saddle. Your shoulder screams. You tell it to write a complaint and stuff it. Yah! Duststorm hesitates, considering all the options available, including running, doing nothing, flinging you into a yucca bush. Mercifully, it chooses option 1. You take off across the scrubland, bouncing like a sack of bones inside a malfunctioning carnival ride. The desert wind slaps your face, rearranging your hair into something that could only be described as survival chic. Behind you, voices shout. Gunshots crack the air, sharp pops that remind you of every poor decision that led to this moment. A bullet kicks up dirt near your boot. You yelp a very dignified yelp and lean low over the saddle. Let's talk bounty hunters. They're the gig economy workers of the frontier, but with fewer ethics and more ammo. Their whole job is to chase you down, hog-tie you, and haul you back to town like a badly behaved cow. Sometimes alive, sometimes not. It's flexible. These guys don't mess around. They are fast, motivated, and probably better at aiming than the average drunk in a saloon. Which is a low bar, but still. Duststorm stretches into a run, hooves hammering the earth like nature's angry drumline. The terrain blurs sagebrush, rocks, panic. Your hat flies off. You don't even try to get it. Hats are replaceable, heads are not. A rocky ravine opens before you. You steer Duststorm sharply, aiming for cover. This is less a plan and more a scream-powered instinct. Duststorm takes the plunge, racing down the incline as pebbles cascade around you like confetti at a terrible party. You duck behind boulders, breath ragged. Duststorm pants, eyeing you like, "This is why I hate you." You peek out. The bounty hunters crest the ridge silhouettes framed against the sky like a nightmare painting. Their hats are wide, their rifles ready, their intentions clear. One of them shouts your name into the canyon. It echoes, unnecessary, dramatic, scary. Clementine would be vanished. Billy would be shot back. Eddie would be ask them politely to please go home. You do the only thing you can think of. Run again. You guide Duststorm deeper into the ravine, weaving between rocks, ducking under branches, praying to every known deity and most of the unknown ones. The hunters thunder behind. The canyon funnels you forward, a stone throat swallowing you whole. Modern comparison time. This is like trying to outrun your ex after they spot you at the grocery store. You dart between aisles, hide behind cereal boxes, and hope fate is on your side. Except here, instead of awkward conversation, you get bullets. Dust storm skids around a tight bend. A wall of thorny brush blocks the path. You have two choices. Turn back toward the men trying to shoot you. Plow through the sharp, angry bushes that want to stab your heart. You pick the bushes because you are a genius. Branches scrape your clothes, skin, soul. Dust storm grunts equal parts pain, and I told you so. Behind you, you hear cursing as the hunters struggle through the same thorns. Brownie points for inconvenience. Suddenly the ravine widens into open desert again. You kick Dust Storm forward, letting it choose the path because it has a better survival record than you. Minutes or years pass. The hoofbeats behind you grow faint, then fainter, then nothing. You slow to a trot, then a walk. Dust Storm stops on its own, sides heaving. You pat its neck. Good job. It flicks near dismissively like, I know. You slide off, legs wobbling. The adrenaline leaves your body like a rude guest and exhaustion crashes in. You drop to the ground, breathing hard. Dust Storm nudges you, nose cold against your cheek. You swear it almost looks concerned. You laugh a shaky, exhausted wheeze. You're alive. Somehow. Again. In the Wild West, every day is a coin toss between still breathing and dramatic obituary, and today, fate flipped the coin your way. Heat slaps you like a vengeful tortilla. You sweat from places you didn't know existed. The sun is not your friend. It is a giant celestial bully hovering overhead, demanding tribute from your body in the form of moisture and self-esteem. Your shirt, when you put it on this morning, was crisp, dry, and smelled like campfire with a hint of fear. Now it clings to you like a needy octopus. You adjust your hat, which is the only thing standing between your brain and a slow roast. Dust Storm trudges forward, hooves kicking up tiny dust clouds that float into your mouth, eyes, and existential outlook. You try to spit, but there's nothing left to work with your tongue. Feels like an old boot someone left on a stove. The desert stretches endlessly around you. Flat, shimmering, yellowed like a giant frying pan. Every horizon looks identical, as if the landscape is copy-pasting itself just to mess with you. You begin to suspect the earth is a lazy designer. The sand beneath you reflects heat like it's getting paid for it. A lizard scurries by, looks at you, and smirks. Even the wildlife thinks you're handling this poorly. Dust Storm flicks its tail with the slow patience of someone who's been through 17 of your bad decisions already today. Its pace is steady but judgmental. You can tell it is considering filing for a transfer. A warm wind blows, except warm is an understatement. It feels like opening an oven door and sticking your face inside, except the oven is everywhere, and you are the casserole. Let us talk hydration. Your water supply ran low 3 hours ago. You've been politely rationing one tiny sip every mile. A swallow here, a wish there. At this point you trade your last bullet for a lukewarm puddle. Your lips crack, your face crackles. You wonder if you're slowly becoming jerky. Modern comparison time. Crossing the desert on horseback with no shade is like walking across a Target parking lot in July, multiplied by 9,000 while wearing wool and being chased by responsibilities. As you ride, mirages shimmer ahead, lakes, rivers, even a Dairy Queen. You briefly consider crying, but you're too dehydrated. Instead, you blink slowly, hoping your tears will file a return request. You spot an old cow skull on the ground, sun-bleached, hollow. A friendly reminder of what happens when you lose the desert minigame. Next to it, a dried tumbleweed that looks like your dreams. Dust Storm slows, its ears twitch. Then you hear something, the faint trickle of water. Could be real, could be your brain trying to cheer you on. Either way, you urge the horse toward it. You crest a dune and see it a narrow ribbon of muddy water. Real, wet, only slightly horrifying. You jump off Dust Storm Landing with all the grace of a collapsing tent and rush forward. You scoop water into your mouth. It tastes like dirt, disappointment, and the faint memory of frog. It is incredible. Dust Storm drinks too, splashing loudly as though this entire ordeal was your fault. It is right. It usually is. Revived, you continue. The desert remains unforgiving, but less murderously so. Hours pass, nothing changes. Sky, blue. Ground, rude. You, sweaty. An occasional vulture circles overhead, its lazy orbit reminding you of your status in the food chain, not high. It stares down like it's pre-booked your corpse for later. You wave it away, but that only encourages it. As evening approaches, the sun finally backs off, drifting lower, no longer screaming at your skin. The world cools, just slightly. You loosen your shoulders and notice you never stopped clenching your jaw. The sky turns pink, then purple, then bruised. The desert looks almost beautiful, as if it's apologizing for trying to kill you for 8 consecutive hours. Dust Storm exhales, ears relaxing. You pat its neck. You did great, you whisper. It bumps your shoulder gently, which in horse language means, you survived. I guess we were doing this again tomorrow. As night finally falls, you look back at the endless dunes and wonder not for the first time why anyone thought this outlaw thing was glamorous. Crossing the desert isn't adventure. It's an endurance test you never trained for, never asked for, and are barely passing. But you survived another day, somehow. And out here, that counts for everything. You find a questionable rabbit. You cook it. Or at least you hope it's a rabbit. It could also be a very confused desert cat. You didn't exactly pause to verify its genealogy when your options are maybe food or definitely starving. Your standards loosen like old saloon floorboards. Dust Storm eyes the carcass with the same suspicion it usually reserves for you. Clementine pokes it with a stick, nods and declares, edible. Her tone suggests this is more of a dare than a promise. Eddie makes the sign of the cross, though you're not convinced he is doing it correctly. It is midday, and your stomach is staging a violent protest. It gurgles in a way that can only be interpreted as foul language. You haven't eaten since yesterday unless you count the 3 sunflower seeds you found crushed in your saddlebag. They tasted like dusty regret. Now it is time to cook, which is optimistic. The Wild West did not come with cooking tutorials. You build a fire using dried brush, fallen twigs, and the remains of your emotional stability. The flame catches, flickering to life like it hasn't read your obituary draft yet. Clementine skins the rabbit with terrifying efficiency. You look away, mostly because you'd rather not learn how sausage or rabbit gets made. Let us talk culinary technique. You jam the rabbit on a stick and hold it over the fire. That is the entire technique. Congratulations, you're now a chef. Nature provides no seasoning, no salt, no pepper, no garlic powder, just smoke and desperation. Modern comparison time. This is like trying to grill chicken using a candle and a coat hanger while being judged by wildlife. The smell rises smoky, faintly meaty, vaguely like that time something died under your childhood porch. You rotate the rabbit stick slowly so it cooks evenly and doesn't spontaneously combust. After a while, the skin crisps and the meat darkens. The gang watches with the solemn attention of people attending a wedding hosted by wolves. Everyone pretends they know what done looks like. Nobody does. So edible yet? Eddie asks. You shrug. We'll find out. Brave words. Stupid words. You carve off a piece and blow on it. It burns your fingers because fire has feelings, and these feelings are spite. You nibble the meat, it is stringy, bland, and vaguely chewy, like leather kissed by smoke. But you're starving, so your brain interprets this as a Michelin star experience. Everyone takes a piece, even Duststorm, who sniffs it, considers the spiritual implications, and gently declines by walking away. Smart horse. The flavor is questionable. It tastes like someone whispered food near sand, but it fills the void. For now. Clementine claims the liver, insisting it is good luck. Eddie gets the tiny back legs, which he gnaws with the enthusiasm of a starving. Raccoon, Buckshot Billy arrives late, picks the bones clean like he's auditioning for a horror play, and then asks if there's dessert. There is not. Unless you count your sadness. After the meal, you stare at the cracked earth. Your belly feels slightly less empty, though possibly haunted. It is hard to tell where satisfaction ends and nausea begins. As you clean your hands in a trickle of muddy water, you reflect. Back home, you would be complained about slightly under-seasoned takeout. Out here, you just ate something that may or may not have had a dental plan and called it dinner. There are no leftovers. Not because you were full, but because Duststorm has reconsidered and is now picking the bones out of the ashes when it thinks you're not looking. Horses can be petty. Night begins to fall, dragging the temperature down with it. The fire crackles low, smelling faintly of rabbit and regret. You sit around the embers with the gang, trading stories not worth telling. Clementine swears she once ate a rattlesnake that tasted like chicken. Angry cousin. Billy claims he lived off cactus water for a month. Eddie says he fasted on purpose for spiritual clarity, which no one believes. You lean back, hands resting on your satisfied-ish stomach. For a brief moment, you feel almost human again, alive, fed, and lucky. Then your gut grumbles, loudly, a warning, a prophecy. You sigh, because out here every meal is a gamble and you never know whether you'll win sustenance or urgently sprint behind a cactus. Only time will tell. The sky turns angry, lightning cracks, rain hits with emotional intensity. Not a polite drizzle, not a cute sprinkle. No, this is emotional support weather gone rogue. The clouds gather overhead like a group of ex-co-workers who all agree you're the problem. The air shifts, wind sweeping across the plain with the same chaotic energy as someone flipping a table at family dinner. One moment it's hot enough to fry your eyebrows. The next, the temperature drops so fast you develop trust issues. You look up. The sky is a swirling bruise, purple, grey, and definitely plotting. Duststorm snorts, ears back. You silently agree. Bad, very bad. Thunder rolls across the plains with the confidence of a stage actor who just got a standing ovation. Lightning forks downward, stabbing the ground like the desert owes it money. Clementine, ever calm, says, "Might get wet." Understatement of the century. The first raindrop slaps you across the face like you've just been insulted by nature. Then another. Then millions. Suddenly it's raining so hard you wonder if the sky sprung a leak. The drops are enormous, cold, and emotionally charged. Each one hits with the energy of an overlong voicemail. Within seconds you're soaked. Your clothes cling to you like a needy ex. Duststorm main mats to its neck, and it looks suddenly smaller, or maybe just disappointed in its life choices. The plains transform from dusty to muddy faster than your self-esteem collapses after reading YouTube comments. Your boots sink, squelching with every step like you were walking on soggy bread. Delightful. You search desperately for shelter. There is none. The nearest tree is 5 miles away and has lightning scars, a bad Yelp review if ever you saw one. Modern comparison time. Imagine walking home in a storm except you don't have a car, umbrella, jacket, or home. Also, the sky is actively trying to tase you. Billy suggests huddling under a boulder. Clementine suggests riding it out. Eddie suggests singing to keep morale high. He begins humming. You mentally threaten to throw him into the wind. Lightning strikes again, close. Too close. The ground rattles under dust stormer's hooves. The smell of ozone hits your nose sharp, metallic, way too spicy for comfort. You realize the universe is currently accepting applications for Crispy Cowboy, and you're a finalist. You press forward, squinting through sheets of rain as thunder bellows like a very upset god. Dust storm trudges on, dripping and miserable, hooves splashing with every step. You try to shield your face with your hands, which is useless because your hands are also wet. The gang is scattered, each trying to keep their horse from panicking. Billy's horse is spinning in anxious circles. Eddie's horse is trying to eat the rain. Clementine, calm. She rides straight, stone-faced, probably negotiating with the storm like it's a business deal. You spot a small rise, barely a hill, but it looks less muddy than where you are. You guide. Dust storm that way, praying for stability. At the top you find a few scrubby bushes and a rock that might provide half an inch of protection. Congratulations, you've found the worst shelter in history. You all cram against the rock, which immediately reminds you how very not waterproof rocks are. Water pours down your back. The wind howls like a hungry coyote trying to send you coupon codes for chaos. Rain pounds down with the force of 1,000 disapproving grandmothers. Storms on the frontier are unpredictable and unrelenting. No weather app could warn you unless the weather app simply said, "Run." Dust storm shakes violently, spraying cold water everywhere. You shriek because temperature is a personal boundary. The horse ignores you. Minutes stretch, then an hour, maybe more. At some point you lose track of time, or identity, maybe both. Your fingers go numb, your toes file a formal complaint. Your coat gains 20 pounds of water weight and now qualifies as a weighted blanket for anxiety. Finally, the thunder softens. Lightning flickers one last time, like the storm's grand finale. Rain dwindles from epic to average. The sky lightens, though still sulky. Your gang emerges from behind the rock like confused prairie dogs. Everyone is drenched, muddy, and emotionally destroyed. Eddie looks like a sad seal. Billy as it holds more water than a bucket. Clementine somehow looks fine. Must be magic. You take a shaky breath. You survived. Your hair, however, did not. The storm leaves behind silence a wide, heavy calm. Puddles shimmer, the ground steams. Dust storm shakes again, this time with relief. You wipe water from your face. Your hands smell like rain, dirt, and existential dread. Out here, storms arrive fast, hit hard, and leave you wondering if you've angered the sky. They remind you that nature doesn't care who you are, outlaw, sheriff, noble, nobody. You're just another speck beneath a temperamental universe, but you lived. And survival, out here, is always the victory. They look tougher. They probably are. Which is rude, honestly. You've worked very hard to cultivate your own aura of dusty menace, the hat, the scars, the I haven't slept in days look, and these guys show up looking like they just stepped off the cover of Grit Violence Monthly. You spot them first, silhouettes on a ridge, motionless against a blazing sky. 5 riders, all bigger, all darker, all dressed like they got a group discount on intimidation. Duststorm stops on its own, which tells you everything you need to know. When your horse gets nervous, it's time to rethink your life choices. The gang senses it too. The air goes still, tight, like a saloon full of men who all just realized they were dating the same woman. They ride down slowly, dust curling behind them like smoke from a bad omen. Their leader, a massive man with a scar that looks like it was drawn onto his face with a dagger by a bored demon, tilts his hat. His eyes gleam with that particular mix of curiosity and disappointment reserved for people about to rob you. Clementine shifts her weight in the saddle. No fear on her face, but then again, she wouldn't have flinched if a mountain fell on her. Billy casually clicks his revolver open. Eddie tries to look tough, but looks mostly like someone's tax intern who wandered onto the wrong set. "Afternoon," Scarface says. His voice is smooth, calm and threatening in the same way a rattlesnake sounds like nature's maraca before it ends you. You nod back, because words are dangerous. "You're a long way from anywhere," he observes. "That's true," you manage. Your voice comes out squeaky, like a baby mouse learning taxes. In the Wild West, rival gangs aren't just competition, they walking, talking reminders that someone out there always wants your money, your horse, or the shirt off your back just so they can wipe their own horse with it. The men circle around you, forming a ring of dust and discomfort. Their horses look meaner than most people you know. One horse is missing an ear. You don't ask. Scarface gestures lazily. "You boys been through Snake Gulch lately?" You shake your head. Lying feels safer. He smiles slow, unfriendly. "Shame. Heard there was a bounty collector headed that way. Big money. Real big. This is bait. You know it. He knows you know it." Billy grunts, unimpressed. Clementine scratches her cheek without breaking eye contact, subtle warning. Eddie tries to whistle casually, but instead produces a noise like a kettle slowly dying. Scarface swings a leg over his saddle and dismounts easy, fluid, like gravity fears him. He strolls toward Duststorm, eyeing your horse with appreciation and hunger. "That a good ride?" "My best," you say, because lying is still safer. He nods, then pats Duststorm's neck. "Your horse flattens its ears, universal sign for I will kill you later." Scarface steps close, too close. You can smell gun oil, sweat, and the faint aroma of I've buried many people and enjoyed it. "Tell you what," he says. "We'll let you keep your skins if you tell us where you are headed." Not exactly an inspiring offer. You consider options. Tell the truth and die. Lie and die. Cry. Hope Clementine stabs someone quietly. You go with option 2. Headed south, you say. That's vague. Scarface studies your face like he's reading a very boring book. Then he chuckles low, humorless. "Ain't nobody smart headed south," he says. "Perfect." He glances at his men. One spits. Another cracks his knuckles. The third appears to be eating a beetle. Priorities. Then, because luck occasionally winks at you, thunder rolls in the distance left over a tantrum from the earlier storm. The rival gang looks skyward, grimaces. "Storm's coming back," Scarface mutters. "Ain't worth fighting in mud." He mounts his horse in one fluid motion, a move you wish you could replicate without falling sideways. We cross paths again. A pause. You won't like it. Promises. They turn, riding away. In a tight formation, silent. Efficient. Terrifying. Dust swirls behind them as if even the earth wants to hide their trail. Your entire gang exhales. Eddie mutters, "I think I peed a little." No one responds, mostly because they also might have. Your heart hammers wildly, adrenaline leaving your body in a rude exit. You pat Duststorm mostly to reassure yourself. The horse flicks its tail, glaring, because you almost lost it to men who look like they eat gravel for breakfast. Modern comparison time. This is like seeing a group of motorcyclists roll into your quiet Starbucks, except you're sitting at their table, drinking their coffee, and wearing their jacket. You don't talk for a long moment. The air slowly relaxes. The world feels bigger again. Finally, Clementine says, "We should leave." And you do. Quietly. Because out here, some battles are won by running away and pretending it was tactical. Someone from your gang steals your horse, your money, and your favorite spoon. That spoon hurt the most. The horse? Okay, Fine transportation is replaceable if you have legs and questionable judgment. The money, whatever. You never had much of it anyway. Coins passed through your hands faster than rumours in a saloon. But the spoon? That was yours. Hand-polished, slightly bent, perfect for beans, stew, and occasionally reflecting on your terrible life choices. And now it is gone. You wake just before dawn, stretched out across unforgiving dirt, feeling like someone tried to chiropractor your spine with a sledgehammer. You reach for dust storm's reins and grasp only air. You sit up with the grace of a startled possum. The camp is quiet. Too quiet. The rising sun casts orange light across the clearing. Clementine is still asleep, curled up like a hibernating bobcat. Billy snores loudly, lying under his hat like he's auditioning to be a tumbleweed. Eddie is curled on his side, clutching his revolver like a teddy bear. But one bedroll is missing. 2 bedrolls, if you count dust storm. You glance at the spot where your saddlebag should be. Gone. Money, gone. Spoon, gone. You whisper a soft, reverent curse at the sky. Of all the low, underhanded stunts in outlaw culture, betrayal is the most predictable. You never trust your gang with your secrets or your money or your cooking utensils. Loyalty out here is like milk on a hot day, it doesn't last. Still, this one hurts more than usual because the thief wasn't a stranger. It was Lyle. Quiet Lyle. Forgettable Lyle. A man whose main personality trait was being present. You almost never noticed him unless he coughed too loud. Somehow that made it worse. Clementine wakes first. She sees your horse is missing, pushes up on one elbow and raises a single eyebrow. Which one? Lyle, you mutter. She nods. Yeah. He looked like a spoon stealer. Billy wakes soon after, grumbling about sandwiches. Then he notices the problem. Where's Dust Storm? Liel took him. Billy curses. Not for your sake, but because he wanted to borrow Dust Storm later. Eddie sits up, hair wild, blanket tangled around his legs. Did he take anything important? You hesitate. My spoon. Eddie gasps like you just told him the sun died. Modern comparison time. This is like someone stealing your car, your wallet, and your favourite mug, and you mourn the mug the most. You pace around the camp fuming. You imagine catching Lyle, tackling him off your horse, and retrieving your spoon like a hero in a poorly written ballad. But then you remember, Lyle's head start is at least 2 hours. You squint at the barely visible hoofprints in the dirt. You consider waking up more fully, but then remember you were already awake. Emotionally, painfully awake, Billy suggests following the tracks. Clementine shrugs and says, if he needed it more, let him have it. Eddie tries to comfort you by offering his fork. You decline a spoon-shaped hole can be filled by prongs. You saddle up Billy's horse, a lumpy beast with trust issues, and take off after Dust Storm's tracks. The sun climbs fast, heating the world into a shimmering mirage. Your frustration simmers. The tracks snake through scrub and sand, heading south. Typical Lyle unimaginative. You ride at a brisk pace fueled by rage and bean-based nostalgia. Hours later, you spot Dust Storm tied under a tree, alone. Your heart leaps, then stumbles. Where is Lyle? You dismount and approach cautiously. Dust Storm snorts, flicking its ears as if to say, what took you so long? You unfasten the reins, checking for signs of mistreatment. None except Dust Storm looks offended, which is normal. You find your saddlebag nearby. Empty. So much for the money. You spot tracks leading away, just footprints now. Lyle ditched the horse and ran. Coward. You find something else. Your spoon, stuck in the dirt, stabbed upright like a gravestone. You stare. Clementine catches up, she'd followed from afar. He left it to send a message, she says. You nod slowly, that he knows what really matters. Billy and Eddie eventually arrive, panting. Eddie picks up the spoon reverently and hands it to you like it's a sacred relic. You hold the spoon, dusting it off. It is scratched, a little bent, but it's back. You sigh with relief, then disappointment, because now you have your spoon, but also proof that trusting anyone out here is a terrible idea. You ride back to camp, spoon tucked safely in your pocket. The desert wind feels colder, because on the frontier, betrayal doesn't usually come from strangers. It comes from the ones you shared food, fire, and fear with, the ones you hoped would stay. Out here, no one is really on your side except a stubborn horse and maybe a very good spoon. Snow arrives. There is no central heating. Winter does not knock. It kicks the door in, tracks mud on the floor, and immediately asks what S for dinner. The first flakes drift down like delicate little feathers, charming, whimsical, the kind of thing that would make a poet sigh. 5 minutes later, it is a full-scale blizzard, slapping your face like you owe it money. Dust storm snorts, breath puffing in white clouds, looking at you like, I told you we should be moved to Florida. You can argue. Your coat, once thick and comforting, now feels like a soggy towel. The wind knifes through it without hesitation, finding every gap, every seam, every insecurity. You start shivering immediately, not cute, dainty shivers, but full-body convulsions that make you look like you're being shaken by an angry ghost. The Wild West has no sympathy. There's no fireplace, no thermostat, no heated floor. There is only the bitter truth. If you stop moving, you freeze. Your gang bunches together for warmth, a sad little meatball of misery. Billy curses under his breath. Eddie tries to tell a funny story, but his lips are too numb to form W. Clementine, naturally, simply pulls her coat tighter and glares at the sky like she's considering punching weather. You try building a fire. Keyword, try. The wood is wet, the wind is aggressive, and your hands are shaking like maracas. You strike a match. The flame light shivers, then dies instantly, like it took one look around and said, no thanks. You try again. Same result. Modern comparison time. Imagine your heater breaks during the worst snowstorm of the year, and the landlord says, have you tried being tougher? Snow piles on your hat, your shoulders, your eyelashes. Your toes vanish not physically, but spiritually. You wiggle them and feel nothing. You take that as a sign that they've filed for divorce. Dust storm edges close, sharing warmth. It helps a little, like hugging a large, mildly judgmental furnace. You can feel the horse's heart beating steady and real, keeping you tethered to the idea that staying alive is still possible. You gather more brush, trying to spark flame again. Billy shields the match with his hands. This time the fire catches small, fragile, flickering like it's afraid of commitment. Everyone huddles close, the heat barely reaching your bones. But still warmth is warmth. You hold your hands over the flames. A slow thaw creeps into your fingers. Painful, but hopeful. Your face tingles, then burns, then cracks. You assume this is normal. The snow keeps falling, building tiny hills on your shoulders. The land around you has transformed. What was once dusty and brown is now white as old laundry soap. Silent, still. If it were not freezing your eyebrows off, it'd be beautiful. You stare out across the snow-covered plain. The world has vanished beneath a sheet of ice. Your tracks disappear. Landmarks dissolve. It's like the desert got tired of killing you with the heat and decided to mix things up. Your stomach rumbles. Cold burns calories fast, you remember. Somewhere, a rabbit shivers. It hopes not to meet you. Clementine stands and scans the horizon. Storm's getting worse, she says. Of course it is. You consider your options. Stay here and freeze. Walk and freeze. Cry. You choose option 3. No tears come frozen. Even your breath feels heavy. frosting in the air before disappearing into nothing. On the frontier, winter is not scenery, it is a threat. You could die in your sleep, or while awake, or while contemplating the philosophical implications of eating snow for dinner. Frostbite lurks like a tax collector, ready to claim your fingers and toes. You wrap your coat tighter, tucking your chin into the warmth, such as it is, and press closer to the fire. The wind howls like a wolf choir, the icy air gnawing at your ears. Duststorm lowers its head and stands solid beside you. Silent companionship. Slowly the storm begins to ease. The wind softens, the snow thins. The world emerges from its white blur, quiet and exhausted. You survived. Barely. Your toes still might fall off, but you survived. You sit by the dwindling fire, rubbing your hands, watching sunlight poke through grey clouds. And for the first time in days, you dare to hope not for warmth or comfort, but just to see tomorrow. You stare at the stars and wonder if you should have you just stayed home and become a dentist. It hits you suddenly somewhere between almost freezing to death and realizing your socks have developed their own separate religion. You lie on your back, gazing up at a sky packed with more stars than your poor brain can count, and you ask the biggest question of all. What am I doing with my life? Existential dread rolls over you like a tumbleweed filled with emotional splinters. The vastness of the frontier makes your problems feel terribly small, like you're just a dusty grain of sand wearing a hat and a bad attitude. The night air is crisp enough to sting your lungs when you breathe. But honestly, it feels good. Clarity hurts. Duststorm stands nearby, chewing on something of questionable origin. The horse emits a soft grunt, as if to say, "I told you outlawing was a bad business model." You sigh. For once you agree. Let's rewind for a moment. You could have been a dentist. Sure, back then dentistry meant pliers, whiskey and guesswork, but at least nobody chased you through deserts with bullets and unpaid emotional bills. You imagine a quiet life, a small clinic, predictable hours, a bowl of peppermints that always taste faintly like regret. You picture yourself leaning over a patient, muttering, "Open wide," instead of "Duck, they forgot rifles." Your tools would be shiny and clean, not covered in dirt, blood, and unexplainable goo. You'd be respected, or at least tolerated. Instead, your shoulders hurt, your hands shake. Your last bath was so long ago that dust now counts as clothing. The sky is enormous. It makes you feel like a tiny thought in a massive mind. Stars flicker like campfires from distant worlds, proof that somewhere out there someone might be living comfortably, eating warm meals and not sharing a bed with cacti. A coyote howls in the distance. Then another. You interpret the howls as, "You messed up, buddy." The desert agrees. Every gust of wind whispers, "Dentist, dentist." You think about your childhood home, the small cabin with the creaky porch and the neighbor who was always fixing something loudly. You remember summer evenings filled with fireflies, not gunfire. Fresh bread cooling on the table, not jerky so tough it could break into the military. Modern comparison time. It's like leaving a stable desk job to become a freelance fire juggler because you thought it looked fun. The longer you stare at the stars, the stranger your brain becomes. What is justice? What is freedom? Why does Duststorm only like you on Tuesdays? Why is every cup of coffee out here just brown sadness? Your thoughts spiral. If outlaws rarely make it past 30, what is the goal here? Is it gold, fame, pure stubbornness? Or is it the quiet moments, the peace of a twilight fire, the shared laugh after disaster, the whispered gratitude of being alive for just one more night? Clementine is awake, sitting a few feet away, cleaning her knife in the firelight. She looks relaxed, serene even. You envy her ability to exist without unraveling. You ever wonder if we should have done something else? You ask. She shrugs. You'd make a terrible dentist. Fair. Billy's asleep, snoring so loud the stars can hear him. Eddie is mumbling in his dreams about pancakes and redemption. Dust storm farts quietly. It is an oddly comforting symphony. You inhale cold air. It sharpens your thoughts. Maybe outlawing isn't about glory. Maybe it's about surviving the day, helping your ragtag mess of a family do the same, finding meaning where there shouldn't be any. You'll never have a normal life. No picket fences, no cozy kitchen, no reliable dental insurance. But you do have this moment lying beneath the endless sky, toes not entirely frozen, listening to your gang breathe. You have small victories, a well-cooked questionable rabbit, a spoon retrieved from betrayal, a horse who hasn't abandoned you today. Maybe that's enough. Eventually, your eyes grow heavy. The stars blur into soft streaks of light. Your mind quiets, no longer gnawing at regret, but curling around a fragile hope. You roll onto your side, pulling your worn coat over you like a tired blanket. The ground is cold but familiar. The night is deep but honest. You aren't a dentist. You're an outlaw. Poor, tired, ridiculous. But at least you're still breathing, still choosing tomorrow, and under this sky that counts for something, it's inevitable. Guns drawn, dust swirling. You're exhausted, underfed, and wearing one boot because you lost the other in a river. That's right somewhere back there, in a shallow stream you optimistically called a bath. Your boot was swept away like a tragic love letter. Now your right foot is wrapped in a piece of shirt you sacrificed to the gods of not getting foot fungus. Spoiler, it's not enough. The air is heavy with heat and tension, that unique combination of it's noon, and someone might commit homicide in the next 3 seconds. Dust whips around your legs, sticking to your sweat-soaked skin like nature's glitter. Before you stands a small army of people who consider you a wallet with legs. They spread out, forming a loose semicircle so dramatic that theatre kids from the future would applaud. At the centre, Scarface the rival leader sits astride a horse that looks like it personally trained at an anger management retreat run by wolves. This is it. Not a practice run, not a drill, not a particularly good idea. Clementine stands to your right, knife glinting, face carved from stone. Billy to your left, chewing on something he found in his pocket, Dontiask. Eddie hovers behind you, breathing quickly, whispering prayers or possibly the lyrics to a lullaby. You tighten your grip on your revolver well. A revolver. You're not entirely sure whose it is. Your own got smashed 2 towns ago in a card game gone wrong. This one has initials carved into the grip that definitely aren't yours. Afternoon, Scarface says, voice smooth as warm whiskey. He always opens with afternoon, even when it's clearly morning. It has sun settling. You swallow, nod. Your heart tries to exit your chest via your throat. Didn't think we'd see you still breathing, Scarface continues. Me neither, you say honestly. He laughs. His gang laughs. You laugh. Clementine does not. She hates comedy. The wind kicks up. A tumbleweed rolls between you, the universal sign of someone is about to die. Scarface dismounts, boots landing with a thud that sounds like doom in shoe form. He strolls forward, casually adjusting his hat. He's calm. Too calm. The kind of calm people have when they already wrote your obituary. You've been a real thorn in my side, he says. You shrug. That's fair. He gestures wide with one arm. Today we settle it. Of course today. Why not? You're sleep-deprived, half-frozen, emotionally compromised and missing a boot. Perfect conditions for mortal combat. Your fingers twitch toward your revolver. The metal is hot, almost sticky. Your palm sweats. Scarface nods once the signal. Silence snaps. Time stretches thin. Guns flash. Shouts ring out. The world becomes dust, heat and thunder. You duck behind a boulder as bullets scream past your ear like angry hornets. Stone chips spray your face. Clementine darts forward, moving faster than thought, blades slicing through chaos. Billy opens fire wildly, hitting well, mostly dirt. Eddie hides behind you, which is suboptimal. Your lungs burn. Your bare foot slams into gravel, instant regret. You pop up, fire twice. One bullet hits a hat, the other hits a cactus. The cactus remains unimpressed. Scarface returns fire, splintering the rock beside you. Duststorm, tied behind cover, screams equine profanity. Modern comparison time. This is like trying to solve your taxes while someone throws kitchen knives at you. You scramble sideways, slipping on your makeshift foot wrap. You nearly fall, catch yourself, and stumble behind another rock. You reload, hands shaking, mind racing. A shout Clementine. She's surrounded. You lunge out, blasting the ground near her attackers. It's enough to distract. She slips free, punches a man in the throat, and returns to your side like she just took a brisk walk. "Where's your other boot?" she asks mid-fight. "Long story." She rolls her eyes. Billy finally hits someone their belt buckle, which causes their pants to fall. The man panics, trips, and faceplants into a bush. It is not dignified, but effective. Gunfire cracks again. Eddie manages a wild shot that actually grazes Scarface's shoulder. He yelps, more surprised than injured, and glares at you like it's your fault. He charges. You backpedal, heart pounding. He's huge. He's fast. He's terrifying. Your foot slips. Pain blazes up your leg. Scarface raises his gun. Duststorm rams him at full speed. Horse and man tumble in a tangle of fury. "Yes!" you shout, not caring how heroic or ridiculous you sound. Clementine grabs your arm. "This is our chance." You nod and limp forward, revolver drawn. Scarface stumbles up, dazed, blood on his lip. "You got guts," he spits. "No," you say, "just bad luck." He smiles and raises his gun. You fire. He fires. Silence. Birds hush. Wind holds still. Scarface drops to one knee, then he falls. Dust settles round him like a shroud. His gang watches stunned. Leaderless. Lost. Clementine steps forward. "Anyone else?" No one answers. Slowly the rival gang turns, rides away. No threats, no parting words, just hooves fading into the horizon. The world slowly exhales. Eddie collapses onto the ground, sobbing from adrenaline. Billy sits beside him and pulls out an emergency jerky. Clementine wipes her knife clean. Duststorm walks up to you, snorts and bumps your shoulder like, "Don't to make me do that again." You laugh shaky, raw. Somehow you're still alive. Your foot hurts. Your stomach growls. Your clothes are ruined. But the threat is gone. For now. You pocket your revolver, collapse into the dust and stare at the endless sky. Tomorrow will come. Danger will return. More storms. More hunger. More running. But tonight you survived. And out here, that S victory.